So this is a practice test for simple, compound, complex sentences. This very first section is all simple sentences, which means that these are all one independent clause. So instead of just having you underline each one time, like we sometimes do for independent clauses. Instead, I want you to find the subject, helping verb, linking verb, action verb, adjective, adverb, direct object, indirect object, predicate, nominative, if there are any, and then cross out the prepositional phrases. So if you look at the first one, the subject is Tony, and the action verb is cleaned, and he put them away. Dishes is what he cleaned, it's a direct object. Them is what he put, so it's a direct object. Away is where he put them, so since away is describing the verb put, it is an adverb. For his mother is a prepositional phrase. This is the object of the preposition, and his is an adjective, his mother. Laura is the subject. Brittany is a subject. Cooked is an action verb. What did they cook dinner? There's your direct object. Prepositional phrase, prepositional phrase. For is an adjective for the object of the preposition hours. The next one, without frosting. Without is a preposition, so this is a prepositional phrase. Cake is the subject. Is a linking verb. And complete. What's complete describing? Complete cake. So complete is an adjective. Not is always an adverb. Chocolate is an adjective describing the noun cake. The next sentence deals with compound sentences. As you know, compound sentence is an independent clause with either a comma and a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon in between the two. Make sure that you don't capitalize the first letter of the first word in the second independent clause. So in these, I'm going to ask you to simply find the subject and verb in each independent clause, or else it would just be a repeat of what we were doing, up here, and I don't think that's necessary. You already showed me you could do that. So in the first one, the subject is you, the helping verb is had, action verb go. So I know that this is an independent clause because it has a subject, it has a verb, and it makes a complete thought. Circle the comma and coordinating conjunction. In the next independent clause, the subject is you, helping verb can, action verb go. Now I know that this is an independent clause too because it has a subject, a verb, and it makes a complete thought. Number 5, the hockey player took an illegal hit. The referee did not see it. Your subject is player. Your verb is took. Circle the comma coordinating conjunction. Your subject is referee. Your helping verb is did, and your action verb is see. Independent clause joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Subject, verb, independent clause combined with a semicolon. Now we have complex sentences. Complex sentences are one independent clause and one dependent clause. You have to have one of each. Remembering that a dependent clause has a subject and a verb, just like an independent clause has. The problem, though, is that it cannot make a complete thought. The reason why it can't make a complete thought is because it begins with either a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. So these, we're going to underline the independent clause 1 time and the dependent clause 2 times. So I will rake the leaves myself is an independent clause. It has a subject, I, a verb, will rake, and it's a complete thought. The dependent clause is unless you want to join me, because it has a subject, it has a verb, but it starts with a subordinating conjunction, which makes it an incomplete thought. These two clauses together make up a complex sentence. The dependent clause in this one is after the fans went home. It has a subject, it is a verb, but it's an incomplete thought because it begins with the subordinating conjunction after. The band packed up their instruments is an independent clause because it has a subject, a verb, and it does make a complete thought. It doesn't start with a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. Until is a subordinating conjunction, starting off the dependent clause, until Jill learns how to pace herself. She will be healthy, will not be healthy, is the independent clause. Notice that when the dependent clause came first in numbers 8 and 9, you did put a comma between the two clauses. But when you have the independent clause come first, like in number 7, there is no comma in between the two clauses. In the next section, all you have to do is look at the sentence and determine whether it is simple, compound, or complex. So in number 10, the sentence is, so when you look at the first one, in the 1700s, people who wanted to clean teeth used a small rag. The dependent clause that begins with the relative pronoun is who wanted clean teeth. Why is it a dependent clause? Because it begins with a relative pronoun. That relative pronoun is the subject, and it also has a verb, but it makes an incomplete thought. The independent clause is in the 1700s, people used a small rag. That's an independent clause. The reason why the dependent clause got shoved into the middle of the independent clause is because the word who is referring to people. Therefore, it needs to be next to the word it's referring to. In the next one, this is your clue right here that you have a compound sentence. And I'm sorry, the one before was complex. Okay. Since it's a compound sentence, you should have an independent clause here on the left, which we do, and an independent clause here on the right, which we do. They each have a subject and a verb, and they both make complete thoughts. They're joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. The last one is a simple sentence. Well, not the last one, but the next one. And that's because you have a subject and you have action verb, action verb. You just have one independent clause. If you go to the next one, number 13, we have a complex sentence. We know we have a complex sentence because we have a relative pronoun here. And the relative pronoun starts off this dependent clause, which he cut short and glued into the holes. It's dependent because it starts with a relative pronoun. It has a subject. It has a verb. It does not make a complete thought. This is an independent clause because it has a subject and a verb, and it does make a complete thought. Therefore, the two of them together make a complex sentence. Here's another complex sentence. This complex sentence begins with a subordinating conjunction when. Here's an independent clause, and then this one here was the dependent clause. Since the dependent clause, or I should say since you have a sentence starting with a subordinating conjunction, you may have to make sure you have a comma between the two clauses. So that was complex. And then the last one is complex as well. The word that is a relative pronoun. It starts off the dependent clause that William Addis invented the toothbrush. Always remember is an independent clause. You might say to yourself, how can this be an independent clause? Where's the subject? This is a command. Always remember, you're telling someone what to do. You're telling them to remember. Remember, the subject then is you understood. So it does have a subject and a verb. Finally, down below, you're going to combine independent clauses. These are all independent clauses in 16 through 20. And you're going to combine them using the relative pronoun, like that, or the subordinating conjunction, like unless, to create complex sentences. So for number 16, and you would normally write out for number 16, and you would normally, sorry, this thing keeps cutting out on me. Let's try this again. So for number 16, it would read, it was an idea, whoops, it was an idea that was greatly needed for an item. Sorry, that's really messy, but you get the idea that this is a relative pronoun that starts off the dependent clause. That was greatly needed. And this stays an independent clause. It was an idea for an item, and we've created a complex sentence. For number 17, it would read, unless you do better on this quiz, comma, you will be greatly disappointed. And so therefore, the dependent clause you've created using the subordinating conjunction unless is unless you do better on this quiz, and then the independent clause is you will be greatly disappointed. Okay? The next one is, I'll write this one out. Let me see if I can try doing it with a text box. I don't know if I'm good enough at that for that. I might be able to do it. So this one would read, no. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to write it out. I can't figure that out. It would be the car that belongs to my brother is parked in front of my house. And that belongs to my brother is the dependent clause that we've created using the relative pronoun that, and the car is parked in front of my house is the independent clause. We had to put this dependent clause into the middle of the independent clause because that is referring to the car, so it needs to be written next to the word car. Now you could have made that different. You could have said the car that is parked in front of my house belongs to my brother. That would have worked too. Okay, for the last one, we're going to use the relative pronoun who. We're going to say the waiter who took our order is standing by the cash register. Oh, is that terrible handwriting? Sorry, I'm not good with this stylus. And then the dependent clause using the relative pronoun who is who took our order. The independent clause then is the waiter is standing by the cash register. Again, who is referring to the waiter, so the word who had to go next to the word waiter. Okay? Finally, take these two independent clauses down here and let's just make a compound sentence. And this is so easy. The Magic Kingdom does not have water slides, comma, nor does it have, we'll get rid of this, a pool. The Magic Kingdom does not have water slides, comma, nor does it have a pool. And therefore you have one independent clause and another independent clause with comma, nor. You also could have done the Magic Kingdom does not have water slides, get rid of this and put semicolon. It does not have a pool. That would have worked as well. So hopefully this helps you guys. If you have any questions in the morning, that we cannot do a review because there is a PSSA meeting. However, you can pop in homeroom and ask me any questions you might have based on this video that you've read. Good luck.